Hello, my name is Eden Hockman, and I am filming my final project for Dr. Katie Morris's Introduction to Sociology course. I chose to do my topic on the sociological impact of homeschooling and how it can affect the social emotional outcome of someone's child. For this podcast, I have chosen to interview my older sister, and I would love if we could take a moment for her to introduce herself and talk about her life and her son real quick.
Hey, so my name is Grace. My sister's not laughing at me. My name is Grace. I just became a mom last year at the age of 22. As of yesterday, my son is now 5 months old, which is crazy. But as you can imagine, those 5 months, my husband and I have been talking a lot about what the future holds and what his schooling will look like. We talked about that before he was born too. And my husband went to public school, I was homeschooled. And we've both been kind of deciding and going back and forth on things. And what we've decided is we'd really like to homeschool him and give him a lot of the childhood that I had, with a mix of public school for like sports and stuff, which I'll get more into later. But yeah.
Beautiful. Our main topic of discussion, besides just social emotional outcome of Christopher, is regarding how they plan on homeschooling him and what that looks like, and any concerns regarding that. So we'll get into our Q&A part of our podcast. And my first question is, what is your biggest motivation behind choosing to homeschool Christopher?
I would say that there are two answers to this, or 2 points. And I'd say the first one is definitely to get more time with him because kids are at school from like 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And that's a lot of time away from parents, 5 days a week. I know some people appreciate that time because they can also get certain work done, but my goal is that my work will be his education and making sure that like I've kind of got the house in order, and can actually stay on top of dinner and cooking because that is a lot of work. Um, and then my second one is definitely, or this is probably more my husband's than my point, is just knowing exactly what he's learning. Um, because I've had some friends who they've they find out later what a teacher taught them, and the teacher, it wasn't in the curriculum, they just decided to do it on their own. And sometimes it's not necessarily a bad thing that they were taught, but it may just not have been how the parent wanted them to learn about that specific topic or that way to do, like, I don't know, even a math problem, because there's multiple ways now. So those would definitely be it.
Well, then I'm actually going to pop down to question 4 and skip these
Oh.
other two because it relates really
Hey, that's
perfectly.
perfect.
What programs and then curricula do you plan to use to ensure that Christopher receives a proper and fair education? And then do you have any concerns about the way that you'll teach him?
So when it comes to curriculum, we're still kind of looking into that right now. That's probably the thing that we need to figure out the most. We do plan to be a part of a homeschool co-op like I was growing up, and we have a few in our area that are really good. Some have classes like home ec, and then as well as like a math class that keeps them on the grade level they need to be on. And we would definitely be under an umbrella, which is where if you homeschool your child, you have to send their grades and stuff like that, and it has to do with the state. So then the state knows your child is learning certain things, and on top of that, um, and that's actually how you get a diploma when your child graduates. That's what my parents did with me. And so you're distracting me.
I'm sorry, I was looking
Sorry.
for something.
Anyways, so we plan to do a co-op. We plan to continue looking into curriculum. We'd like to do a faith-based one, especially for science and stuff. That's a big motivator for us personally. And then if I have any concerns,
Yeah.
Honestly, not really. I think I'm going to take the things that my parents did that I really liked, and then what they did that I feel like we could improve a little bit. Because my mom, it was her first time homeschooling, just like it would be my first time, but she didn't grow up homeschooled. So it was an all new situation for her.
She also had a teaching background.
Yes, she did. But I mean more in the sense of, especially as we got older, I think it helped to be in a co-op. Like, my chemistry teacher had a degree in chemistry.
Yeah.
And that was really helpful. So I'm going to do my best to look for people that also have stuff like that could pour into my child. And we know a lot of people already who have been like, I would absolutely love to help with that. So, yeah, I'm not super worried.
Sweet. We'll pop back up to question 2.
It's like, where are we going?
Having been previously homeschooled, what role has that played in your choices for Christopher? And also, how is that? What have conversations between? I'm kind of adding a question in here, but the conversations between you and Gray, in terms of like coming to the decision of homeschooling, because Gray did go to public school. Gray is her husband, by the way. I don't know that we've said his name yet. I should have said that earlier. That's Gray. That's Grayson.
Grace and Grayson.
Grace and Grayson, yes, and then Christopher. How have those conversations gone, and what has he felt about that? Does that make sense?
So, yes, I'm gonna try to answer
the one that's there.
The first one, and then I might have you repeat the second, just so I don't.
I'll phrase it better.
No, you're fine. I'm gonna do one at a time. So being previously homeschooled, the thing that was hardest for me at certain parts was like not seeing people as much as I wish I had, or not getting out. Now our mom is very social. All right, we were already doing stuff all the time. But as I got older, I just felt I need to be around even more people around my age, and just try to find some friends to go to college with. And then I didn't go to college, but like, if I was going to. Anyways, I love being homeschooled because of the freedom it gave me. My school took half the time of people who were in public school, and then I had free time to like do stuff I was actually interested in. And in high school, like, I volunteered at the zoo. You are going to hear my child crying in the background. If you do, I apologize. I promise he's okay. He just doesn't want to take a nap. He's with his dad. It's okay. It'll be fine. But yeah, so probably freedom. My husband, to go to him really quick, he went to public school. His mom started him a year later than he was supposed to start because he ended up being diagnosed with ADHD. They didn't want to put him on medication. They weren't comfortable with that, so they just wanted to give him more time to kind of be a kid before he had to start sitting in a classroom and all that. He excelled in school. He did great. But that just is not his best style of learning. It's just like sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day or whatever. And I have a feeling that our son is going to probably be a similar way based on how he is already. And I just would like to allow him to have more of his childhood back in ways that I feel he should, compared to some kids in public school. Because also in kindergarten, they used to get out at like 1 p.m., 9 a.m.
They would get home at like 12:30.
Yeah, and now they go till 3, and I just don't think that that's appropriate for a kid that age. I think that they need the time to wind down on their own and then go play outside or something. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to give him that while also making sure he's learning the things that he needs to be learning.
And then how have your conversations with Gray looked surrounding this topic? Like, how have you gone about... Because he wasn't homeschooled.
Yeah, he's pretty much been for it from the get-go. I think in the beginning, before he met me and we were dating, he hadn't thought a lot about it because, we started dating at 19, so... But also, he just had never thought any differently to how he grew up. And then when we were dating, and we would just talk about stuff, and just, honestly, the education system started changing a lot. Yeah. And just because the education system has changed doesn't mean everyone needs to homeschool necessarily. There are some really great private schools, but I do think as a whole the public education system needs to make a few tweaks and changes. And it's just overwhelmed because you have one teacher for like 20 kids, and that's just, each kid doesn't get the individual attention they need, no matter how wonderful the teacher is. They cannot do that for everyone.
It's like 38 kids per classroom. There's just no way.
It's just too much. And that's another part of it, is having more individualized attention. We also have a lot of grandparents that have talked about helping, and aunts and uncles and stuff. So if we end up having more kids, then we'll all still be able to kind of separate the attention for each one of them. And the good thing is, I'm pretty good at English. I know I just said pretty good, so maybe it doesn't sound that way. But I am a good writer, and my husband is wonderful at math. And I feel that those are good components to making this work. But yeah, definitely, he doesn't like how the system is at the moment. And it feels like it's getting worse. And our mother, as Eden said does have a degree in education, and she had considered going back this past year, but she just didn't like the way that they were implementing certain things, and so even her, like, she wouldn't even go back to teaching,
Yeah.
and she loves the kids and loves to teach, and I think that just says a lot.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Um, do you ever feel that homeschooling impacted, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but do you ever feel that it impacted your social emotional growth either positively or negatively?
I'd say both.
How so?
I want to start with the negative to end on a positive. I think middle school's hard for everybody, and I think it was harder because we did go to a co-op so we could make some friends, but you still have very limited amounts of people that are there, and it felt like everyone already kind of had their cliques because that's just how it is in middle and high school, and no one really wanted anything else. But it was from such a small group of people to begin with that you didn't have a lot of options. So probably making sure, even maybe doing 2 co-ops depending on how busy it is, and just to spread that out a little bit. My husband is incredibly extroverted. We already do stuff all the time. I'm not really worried about Christopher not having any friends. Um, his personality also already is very out there and he loves people, so I'm not super worried. But like, even to start, recently we've been going to, on Tuesdays we go to the library, where like this librarian reads to babies through toddler age, and Christopher, it's his nap time, so he's always asleep. But I go to at least interact with the moms, and we've been getting to know some of the moms. I'll go out for coffee with one of them and her little baby or something, and Christopher will try to talk to their baby at coffee, and it's like super sweet. But to me, that's just already giving him the opportunity to just start interacting and like not be completely isolated or anything. I think that's my main goal, is not to isolate him. Now, for a positive, the friends that I did have, one of my best friends, which we were both homeschooled, her name's Millie, and she and I got to do so much together, and we had more free time to like actually spend time together and like go up to Cades Cove and drive the loop or something in high school, and um, do more fun things together, or like she could stay the night before we'd go to co-op the next day. There's stuff like that that I feel like you can't always necessarily do in public school, and maybe you can, but I don't think my parents would because of the
No.
hours and everything. Um, so that would be my negative and positive.
We also had the added benefit of going to a youth group, which was.
And we had neighbors that
Yeah.
had kids.
We grew up, our parents moved into the neighborhood that we live in now because when they were looking at the house, there were so many children out in the street that they were
They were
like,
all
well, this is
watching us.
perfect. They also did like the school zone because we were not originally going to be homeschooled.
No.
It just worked better for our schedule. And Grace went to public school until first grade, second grade.
First grade was the only, like, because you do kindergarten, but it's not, it doesn't exactly
It doesn't count.
And so first grade was the only really year I ever did.
And then they just could not get up in time.
That was mom's motivation. Yeah. Isn't that so? You're like, oh, it's not the safety of my child or any of that. Okay, I will throw that in there. School shootings. That's honestly another reason that I've really been like, you know what?
I didn't put this in here and I should have. I've done research for this final, and
that is another factor for me.
There was a study that this group did, or these scholars did, and they found that like 38% or something of homeschooled families are only homeschooling because of concerns about public safety. And like they're scared that their kid is going to die. Which is fair.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, I absolutely agree with that, but I think I'm glad my main motivation is that I just want to spend more time with him, because I think if you do it out of fear, when you burn out, because you are going to burn out at some point if you don't have enough help when you spend that much time with your child. You could love them more than life itself, and you still need other people to help you. And I think that if you do it with the motivation of fear and you don't trust anybody ever, that is
your kid's gonna be weird.
And then you're not gonna be very kind to your kid, and you're not gonna realize it. Kind of saw that happen. So yeah, I would throw that in.
How do you think that you'll navigate being burnout? And also, how do you think, let's say that Christopher is hypothetically the only child that you have. How do you think that you'll navigate having a relationship with him where you spend a lot of time together, but it's not too involved as a parent and child?
So it depends on the age, for one thing. Right now, it has to be overly involved. He is a breastfeeding baby who can't walk or crawl yet, so he is constantly with me. But once he's not breastfeeding anymore, he starts eating more solids because he's just now starting to get the age where we can kind of introduce that a little bit. Then it's going to start shifting, and then he'll be able to be more independent. He wants to be independent, don't get me wrong. He is like, he's ready. His body just isn't. Mentally is. But, oh crap, now I'm losing my train of thought here. What did you just ask?
How do you plan on navigating not having too involved a relationship with him?
Yes.
Especially if he ends up being your only child.
So, part of the goal is to put him in sports. My husband also grew up playing instruments, so I think it'd be good if he played at least one, or at least tried at least one. And then if after a year or something he absolutely hates it, then we can switch to something else and pour more time to something else. But I think getting him in something like that is like a group thing, where I can still support him, but also get to know the other parents and focus on talking to the parents while letting him be more independent and have that time to grow mentally and challenge himself will be a good thing. But also, this is what I've heard because I'm not very far into this yet. I've heard it's good to have a hobby. The problem is when you are a mother, your hobbies revolve around your kids. Yeah. You gotta do it within the room with them and stuff. So, one thing that I think will help us is where my husband works, at least now, and he plans to stay there for a little bit longer. He has Fridays off, so he works 4 10s. Monday through Thursday, he works 10 hours every day. But that gives him Friday, and we've already talked about, like, he really loves history. He'd like to teach history. So I'm like, okay, Fridays are the day that I will either do extra cleaning or I'll go out and do something for myself or whatever, and there's just father-son time, but they're also doing school. And then we can all do something fun as a family together after or something. And he really, 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 like, we were sitting in bed a few weeks ago and just trying to go to sleep, and he was like, I am just so excited to teach him history and the Bible and teach him math and, like, see how he learns. I'm so excited to see how he understands these things. And I don't have that same excitement, mostly because I'm like, yeah, he needs to learn these things. But I think it's really good and that's just also my husband. He's very excited about, like, everything and very passionate and, like, all that. So I think that we'll balance each other out, and being able to have his help more is going to take stuff off my plate, which my mom didn't quite have that with the schedule that my dad has to work. So we're hoping to try and keep that 4-10 schedule for as long as possible, but yeah.
Maybe, like, oddly emotional.
Oh, I was like,
I'm gonna start crying. I just really, I don't know, I thought that was very sweet. How do you plan on, hey, we're just going right back to it, but how do you plan on ensuring that Christopher is adequately socialized? You actually kind of already answered this.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually have a different question that I'm going to put in place of this one. What role do you plan on your faith having in this, in terms of how is that going to impact how you
That's so good.
educate him and how he goes about life?
So that is another, but when I say we don't love what the education system is teaching, there are, like, two things. One, they literally have changed math. What the heck?
Yeah, they really have.
And I'm not saying that we won't have to do that from a homeschool curriculum as well. We're still looking into those to decide. We have a few years, and then it's like, we gotta know. But our faith is definitely a big impact. We're both non-denominational Christians, and so you also, even within the world of our faith, you've got Pentecostal, Catholic, you've got all these different things. And we don't agree with those denominations on certain things. So we don't necessarily want to teach those either. So we have to be very aware, for one thing, and we have to pray quite a bit for discernment from what we believe, like, the Holy Spirit will guide us and help us navigate this. But one thing our mom did that I appreciated was we did online school for a little bit. Did not like the online school. Wouldn't recommend. But one of the things that we were supposed to do was the Bible, and that tied in with history. And I really, really want to do that for Christopher, so he views it as historical, which we believe it is. And Sunday school teacher I had growing up at our church, he was a history teacher, or is a history teacher at King's Academy, which I think that's in Seymour. I might be wrong, but it's kind of in Knoxville-ish area. And he was so good about tying in the Bible with other historical events that everyone else is like, yes, this absolutely happened. And he can just prove things to you so well and back up our beliefs even more. So I'd really like to be able to do that for Christopher. If he chooses to believe something else later, I mean, absolutely, we believe in free will and the power to choose, but I would just like to navigate him that way because it could at least, the very least, teach him good morals. At the very least. So.
That was a good answer. I forgot that Lee teaches history.
He's such a good teacher.
He really
He's
is.
So good.
What are your? This is my last one, I think. These are. Yeah, there it is. These are my last two, unless I think of something. What are your biggest concerns with homeschooling? And then outside of just spending time with him, what are you looking forward to the most?
Probably burnout. I expect I'll burn myself out a time or two because this is just being a parent in general, once you feel like you get a hang of it, they switch it up and grow, and then something else you gotta learn. We're going through we're still in a sleep regression right now, or we just got through it. I'm not even sure yet. And that right before that, I was like, we're getting the hang of it, and then waking every hour of the night to eat, and waking up at 3:30 for the day, like just. It's a lot. He's a happy guy, and I appreciate that. Besides, if you heard earlier, I don't know if it picked up or not, but he was screaming, so he just didn't want to take a nap. But anyways, that I'm not really worried about it yet, though. But that might also be because homeschooling feels further away than it is. So I don't have a lot of fears yet. Looking forward to. I'm trying to think. I think one thing that's really fun with homeschooling, like for instance math, which I know my mom said this a million times and it drove me nuts, but like when you're learning fractions, the only time I use fractions is cooking. That's it. Yeah. It's the only time I use it. Or baking, I guess. I don't really measure when I'm just cooking. When I'm baking, you gotta measure, but when you're cooking, it's like, you know what? It says 1 tablespoon. I think we could triple that. Actually,
it looks like
let's throw a lot of cayenne pepper in here. Not a table. I don't even throw a tablespoon in any recipe of that. But anyways, I promise I'm a decent cook. But just that you can take real life things and work it into school. I really, for exercise, I loved biking a lot in high school. Yeah. And my mom could count that for PE, and I enjoyed it. My husband, he likes to lift weights, and like he just loves it, and he wants like the moment Christopher turns 2 or 3, he's like, we're gonna start lifting. Now he's not gonna do anything crazy because he'll be 2 or 3, but our goal is for him to learn to love exercise and care about what he puts in his body regarding what he eats. I just want him to take care of himself. So yeah, the spiritual, mental, and physical, those are very important to us. So I'm looking forward to like actually bringing in things that we really enjoy to do and like work that into his school as well.
Yeah. I have a follow-up question. I just thought of this one.
Go for it.
How do you think this is on you as a person? How do you think that being homeschooled influenced and impacted like our relationship and our family's relationship?
Honest, Mike.
You can get as honest as you want. I mean, Dr. Morris is going to be the only one who hears this, okay. So.
It's like, we're recording this in my parents' house, so.
They're upstairs.
Because I think about this a lot.
I will give context also. Grace and her husband currently live an hour and a half, almost 2 hours away. So they come and go. They live
We live in Gray, Tennessee, which is a small town right outside of Johnson City that Johnson City's trying to annex at the moment. So
yeah, they really are. They also live in an area where Gray's family, because it is a small town, Gray's family is all right there. And so he grew up very differently than we did. And then also, Grace and I shared a room up until the age of 16. We built a room into the garage.
More like 18.
And then Grace came and slept on my floor on a mattress. So actually more like 18 up until she like started dating Gray and basically got engaged. Yeah, so
pretty much.
We had an added element of being together all the time. Mm-hmm. We lived in the same room. But that's just context.
This is what you do. So your question was how it affected our family.
Yes, it impacted like our relationships with each other.
Yes. It's complicated. I feel I need to add a little bit more information before I can like accurately answer. So up until first grade, I went to public school, and then the summer between first and second grade, my mom every day, or it felt like it was every day. It's like, do you want to be homeschooled? And I was like, sure, I don't care. She's like, do you really not care, or do you care? I don't care. You can homeschool me, whatever. I didn't realize the impact it was gonna have. I didn't think anything of it. I mean, I was like 7. I guess I told you I'm first grade. I don't even know. I just, not many thoughts. And then we were homeschooled. And then when I was in 6th grade, so we had like 4 or 5 years. And then when I was in 6th grade, our mom started working at our church. Now her schedule's very flexible as a children's minister, but we would go multiple days a week with her, or my siblings and I would be home, and I would basically be the adult in charge, and mom would work, dad was working, and then it was like mom giving me a list, really, to be like, make sure that your siblings do these chores and get this done with their school. And I would say, okay, absolutely. And then everyone got mad at me. You had this is important. I promise this is important.
I forgot about this.
And then you would have me telling them what to do, even though that was not quite my position. And then my dad would get home, and my brother, I mean, Eden did the same thing, but they would both be like, Grace was telling us what to do, and like, blah, blah, blah. And then he would tell me to stop being the parent. And then I would say, well, this is the list mom told me I had to make sure they got done.
Yeah.
And then they'd get mad. It was just like, I'm not mad at anybody. It was just, it was not a healthy cycle.
No.
And I think that if you're going to homeschool, it is better if only one parent is working. Yeah. Because working outside the home, I guess is what I should say. Because when you are home and you're homeschooling, and you're tending to where you live and your children and nurturing them, that's a job. That is a full, like, you don't get a break. I've learned that with Christopher with breastfeeding and everything. There is no break, okay? And sometimes it's exhausting, and other times you're like, this is the best thing in the entire world. But if I was working, oh my goodness, I couldn't. I told Gray after the first 3 months, I don't know how moms go back to work. I would like, some moms need that, really. Some moms are more independent than I am, and they really love that, and that's great for them. But I would have just crumbled as a person and been so depressed. We would have had to like evaluate everything to make sure I could stay home. So luckily we'd already talked about it for years, and that was what we wanted anyways. So I think because our mom started working again, that really impacted everything and not the best way.
Yeah.
Now, what came out of that was when I was 16, we fostered.
Yeah, I was 14.
I was 16. There were a couple kids at our church that we became very close to, and some crazy things happened. We had no training through DCS or anything. We did not have a certificate, like nothing.
We went through Safe Families.
Yeah, Safe Families, and which they are like, they communicate to DCS for the case, and then they're kind of like an in-between.
Basically, their system is like, they communicate for DCS and for the parents, and so basically the parents have access to the child at any point.
Yes.
It's just a parent has agreed, sort of, but not really like on any form of governmental level, being like, yeah, you can take my kid for a while.
And I believe it's a Christian-based place as well, faith-based. So. That could be wrong, but I think it is. You can look it up. Anyways, but I bring that up to say that if we had not been homeschooled, we would not have had the experience we had with that, which was both wonderful and heartbreaking and all of the things in between. I wouldn't have known I wanted to be a mom. I wouldn't have known any of that had those kids never lived with us. So I know that doesn't quite answer the homeschooling question. I'm trying to figure out the best way to tie this all in. If you're homeschooling, don't maybe.
Do you think that you are in a really like good position because you don't have to financially work?
We are very frugal.
Yeah, that's true.
We work very, because in this economy today, it's rough. Now, look, you can make it work. We just bought the first car we've both ever personally paid for, and we did it in cash because we had been putting money in savings for a while. And we have no car payment because of it, and we're both very grateful for that because our washer just broke, and now we have money to pay for that. So, anyways, but yeah, so you kind of give up some of the luxuries of, like, some people go on vacations multiple times a year. I would much rather be with my kid every day than do that. And we still do weekend trips sometimes. I mean, it's not like we don't do anything, but I think that we have enough of an experience when we go for a hike or we go do something fun like that that it makes up for it, I guess. But yeah, I think being homeschooled did implement some really great things in the sense we had more quality time. I did have more time in some senses with our parents because we weren't doing homework in the evenings. High school was a little different, but for at least leading up to that, we had more time because our parents, when they were off work and they were home, like we could actually all like just hang out and just be together because we'd already done all our stuff. Um, so in that sense, I think it was great. But then in the sense of there was a lot of burnout for our mom, and that really impacted the entire family. And I think that if I think back, and it all started when she started working. I am not saying this though to say that mothers cannot work. I am not against that. I do think it is good if you have at least one parent that can be home with the kids.
Yeah.
And just stay on top of things at the house because oh my goodness, there's so much. There's always something to clean or do or take care of. So also getting out of the house is great because it's less mess to take care of. If you have a nice day, get out. But I hope that kind of answered that question.
Yeah.
It's like
I think it is also really dependent on who the parent is that's homeschooling the child.
That's true.
Because mom has always been a very independent person.
Mm.
We are not mom's life. We are an extension of mom's life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's fine. I think that being homeschooled in that environment was a little confusing.
Yes.
And a little trying at times.
I have a friend who homeschools her 4 kids, and I think at times she can be maybe too reclusive. She's gotten a lot better as they've gotten older. I've been really proud of her of putting herself out there more. But her home is just her safe place. She loves to be home, and that's how it is for me too. So it's easier for me to understand. But because of that, when I've been over there when they've been doing school, like, and obviously there's things I'm not going to see because I don't live there all the time or anything. But her kids just seem happier in ways that, and the stress levels seem less than it was in our house growing up. And so I could see where that is a little bit easier. Maybe if we had started a co-op sooner, it would have been easier. But also with our mom's job being flexible, she'd sometimes put things in the last minute. And then that stress would impact everybody. I procrastinate too, so I can't really say anything. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I think one of our biggest added benefits also was that when COVID happened, we were ready. There was not a single aspect of COVID that was confusing or really, like, in terms of, on a global level, yes, but in terms of when it came to transitioning to homeschooling, that was not hard at all. We just did Zoom.
Our dad was also very blessed in the fact that his job could still happen online.
Yeah.
So he still had a job. Our mom's was weird at the time, but she kind of did some things online. Like since she worked at the church and worked with the kids, like you can't really do that when you're at home. But she would like have people read books on Facebook Live, so then so people could actually we all took turns doing that, and the kids they would watch it, and it would just give them something to do, and they'd be like, I know that person, you know.
She read them bedtime stories. That's what it was,
and it was really sweet and really fun. Sorry.
It's okay, please don't break the microphone. Jack will kill me.
Oh, sorry, Jack. But that was really fun. I was also incredibly sick that year.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, almost died before COVID. And so I was already quarantined at home. So I was really on top of it.
We were together every single day for like 9 months straight. There was not an ounce of us that was apart at all.
It was pretty. I mean, I thought it was great to have someone there, but I was in pretty rough shape. I was not a fun person.
I was a professional caretaker.
Yeah, it was tough.
I think that, to give my feedback, because that's what this is for, I think that in certain ways, being homeschooled had a negative impact on our family unit. But if I were to compare, like, our relationships as a whole, we have a younger brother as well. His name is Garrett.
Yeah, he's there. He's there too.
He's asleep right now, I think.
No, he's getting a haircut.
Oh, just kidding. He's getting his haircut. I did not know this. I was not here. But I think that, to an extent, it made us as siblings closer for a while. And then also, like, we would argue. Because not only are you together with your parent a lot when you're homeschooled, if you have siblings, you're with your siblings all the time.
You love each other, you hate each other.
Yeah, we were almost never apart. And I think that is hard. I mean, that was difficult.
Let me tell you though, get you ready for marriage.
Yeah.
Get you ready to spend a lot of time with someone that's around your age all the time. Which I'm a quality time person, so I'm not like I love to be hanging out with my
Do you know that
family.
that's every single one of our family members except for mom's top love language?
And that's why we all have a hard time.
That's why homeschooling was so good for us. Um, no, I think that it really, like, if I were to compare our relationships with other people I know that are our age that have siblings, they generally do not have the same level of, I don't, connection, I guess, and like transparency between them. And I do credit a lot of that to the fact that we were just together so much growing up. We did fight a lot, but it was okay.
Yeah. I don't think there's a perfect way to parent in any aspect. So when we're saying this stuff about our parents, I don't want it to come across like our childhood was the worst thing on the planet. It
No.
definitely had some hard elements, just like their parenting for them had
Yeah.
hard elements. Um, I don't know if just having a baby's really helping me with having more grace for that, but I do know like no one's perfect, and hope one day that my son has some grace for me because I know I've already screwed up and I'm going to continue to do that, not on purpose, but that's just what's going to happen. Um, so I think you can try to make public school work, but I would just I'm convincing all my friends to homeschool. I've already convinced two of them. I've already got two people on board that are going to homeschool with me. One of them already has a little girl, and the other one like they're like hoping to have a baby in the next year. So
You're also in a position where homeschooling is an option.
yeah,
Does that make sense? Like if you live in an area where your rent is super, super high and you just don't make enough and you have like two car payments and like all of these phone plans and stuff that does build up, homeschooling can feel like it's just not an option, regardless of how much you may want it.
now there are some people that move in with like in-laws and they
Yeah.
live there for a year or two to pay off debts and then they buy a house and then it's like okay, we're still gonna have to be really tight, but we can make it work. I think if you really want it, you will evaluate all your options and make it more of a possibility. You just have to know that it takes sacrifice and don't hold that against your kids.
Yeah.
I think our mom did that a lot. I've talked with my mother-in-law about certain things because my mother-in-law just absolutely loves her kids and would like sometimes too much. All right, but she is so good about prioritizing her time with her family, and
Because what does Becky do for work? What has she done
she
their entire
works full
lives?
time. She is a radiologist. She does X-rays. And it's like very competitive, one, to do the schooling for that. You have to be like the top of your class and all this different stuff. And then you go to this other level in college to try and get into this other thing. And like she did all the things. And it was very hard. And she does not love her job by any means. She's good at it, but it's more of it gives her a really good paycheck. And it's secure. You're always going to need someone that can do an x ray, you know? Yeah. So, but even besides that, she would work all day and then make sure she made it to her kids' band practice and made sure they had dinner and then get them home and help make sure they got to bed. She would like, she's like that. I talked to her one day. It's like, gosh, like you were just, they don't understand how lucky they were that you almost always had a good attitude about it. She's not perfect by any means, but she really did. And one day she told me, Grace, that's just what happens when you're a parent. You just give up. It's not that you're fully giving up your life, but you do sacrifice things. But that's what being a parent is. Like she didn't say it like it was this horrible thing. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
So I hope that I could kind of take that from her, but then take some of the elements from my mom as well, and like implement those into my motherhood journey. I think because there are pros to both of their styles.
I think our mom was really good at instilling like creativity.
Yeah.
And I also think that
Becky's not very crafty.
No. God bless Becky's soul. I also think mom was very inventive in the ways that she taught us. She also, I think, really helped, at least for me, I feel like she helped me with my own sense of understanding like children. Before our mother was a children's minister, she babysat out of the home.
Oh yeah, that was really good.
And so she was not only homeschooling us, but she was like teaching these children things as well. And so I do think mom, at least for me, instilled a really good sense of appreciation for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to pursue working with children. And I think that that is mostly based on things that happened growing up and job experience I've had outside of that.
Yeah.
I think that there are benefits and faults of every parent, and homeschooling just happens to highlight them.
For sure.
Because you're with them all the time.
Yeah. I hope that we stayed enough on the homeschooling topic.
Hey, sorry. I believe I could be incorrect, but I do recall you saying that someone uploaded like a 3-hour-long podcast one time.
Oh, this is even a third of that yet.
No, and I really only brought up like one actual thing that I learned from a source, but this was more of like a hands-on learning experience. This was a first-person look into homeschooling. Um, I did also learn in these sources that I looked at that there has been no long-term study on the social emotional well-being of a homeschooled child.
That's crazy.
Because there are so many differences in how someone is homeschooled.
That's true.
They would have to start at kindergarten and set up like a very specific system.
And then some people go back to public school for a few years and go back to homeschooling.
They do.
So
if they were to do a study, they'd have to get like several families, get them right as their kid was going to enter school, and then give them all the exact same curriculum, which means they couldn't factor in like if your kid has ADHD or like your lifestyle or who's parenting.
Yeah.
And so they haven't been able to do one, which means that that's actually made this a lot harder to talk about because it didn't have all of the information I wanted.
A lot of elements and factors going into play there.
There are. I also learned that only 17% of homeschooling is done for religious reasons. Or not 17, 7 or something like that.
Really?
Which I thought it would be a lot higher.
At least for the ones we know, but I guess our mom is a believer, so
and
like,
our
co-op.
we
would fall into
our co-ops were all religious as well. And then also 31% of homeschooled families, at least as of 2021, were in a co-op of some sort.
I think that is one of the best things you can do if you homeschool.
Yeah, 100%.
For your relation. Oh, yeah, let me highlight the thing the most about co-op that I should have said earlier. Completely slipped my mind. I think to help give you some separation from your child. I should have said this earlier. I'm like, why am I just not thinking of this?
It's okay.
Co-ops are wonderful because it is someone else to hold your child accountable to tests and quizzes and a class and work. And then if you, as the child, need to vent to your parent, you can vent about the teacher without it being your parent. That was such a big factor for me of like I did not want to overlap it too much because then I thought, because it did lead to some resentment for me. And that wasn't my mom's fault. She'd never homeschooled. Like I said, it's the first time for everything. But I think that that's going to be really helpful if, like me teaching one class is one thing. But it has some teachers that I really had to vent about at times. And being able to actually talk to my parents about them without it being them, so that way they didn't feel personally attacked because they weren't being personally attacked, was just very healthy.
Yeah.
And then it taught me to talk to them more. So
yeah.
That's like my biggest component for co-ops. And if you're gonna go to college, it teaches your kid how to take a test.
Yeah, it does.
In a classroom setting where you can't get on your phone or anything or try to cheat. That's something you have to stay on top of when you're homeschooling.
I will say, as a child who's in college right now, it's still hard.
Well,
Co-op set me up to understand it, but it still sucks so bad.
Yeah.
That's been really hard. I've had problems with that, transitioning from being homeschooled my whole life into suddenly I'm in this system that I have never worked on this kind of timeline before. And my first year at Pellissippi was really rough. Like, it was really terrible because I just didn't understand. It was really hard for me.
It's a rude awakening for you.
It was really, and I'm the only one out of the three of us that has pursued a college education.
True. So, also out of the four, if we include my husband,
that's true.
was perfectly smart enough to go to college and everything, and so was I. Maybe
you were.
He was, but he was like, I don't want to just end up with a desk job. I don't want a bunch of student loan debt. And like I said, since we knew I wanted to stay home, we were avoiding as much debt as possible. The only debt that we can justify personally is car debt. Or not car debt, house debt. I did not mean to say car debt.
We don't have any car debt.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's why we tried to pay for a car in full. And it took us 6 months to make a decision on a car because we wanted to try and get the best with what we could budget. So, then we worked with one car for a long time. Multiple times. But anyways, yeah. He didn't go. He's an electrician. And he loves it. And honestly, I'd highly recommend that to most people. Just go into a trade. Not necessarily electrician, but just like a trade in general. and then I stay home. I also have done photography and made pretty good money doing that.
Yeah.
And then our brother, I'm trying to think what he does right. He is landscaping
He
right now, but he's talking about going into surveying again. He's done that before, and
you make so much money.
he makes good money doing
it's
that.
crazy.
And since he still lives with our parents, he saves as much as he can, and he is gonna probably be able to buy a house in the next few, honestly, probably 5 years if he really wanted to, if he stays doing what he's doing.
He doesn't plan on moving out till he gets married, which is, you know what? Good. Hey, good system.
I didn't move out until 2 months before I got married.
I am the only woman in our entire family timeline. What is the family line that has ever lived by herself?
I had 2 months.
But you were already engaged.
That's true.
And Gray lived next door.
I'm not complaining though.
No. This occurred to me the other day that I'm the only one that has ever done that.
It is even harder once you get married if you've lived alone for a while because you know your independent things. But the benefit, if I learned from Matt Rosenberg, the benefit though, there's pros and cons to everything, right? And one of the benefits that we need to really probably get back to what the topic is.
Hey, sorry.
But the benefit can be that because you start learning about yourself independently, yes, it can make it very hard when you have to be dependent and be with somebody in the same space again. But then if you can figure out what your quirks and your little things are, and they figure it out, then when you come together, you just have to be honest and open about, like, this is how I like this.
See, here's the thing. Jack already knows all of the things I struggle with in terms of I have a schedule. I like my schedule. I cannot go to sleep with dishes in the sink. Everything has to be done. The apartment is cleaned weekly, bi-weekly. No hesitation. Does not matter what is going on.
I don't know what you're going to do when you have a kid.
I just don't have any. If they can't fit into the schedule, they're not entering my life.
My schedule went to crap after he was born.
And Jack and I won't get married for like 5 years. But like Jack knows, because when he comes home for weekends, he is not allowed to mess with my schedule to an extent. I will move things around, but not with joy.
So good that he's laid back.
He is. Sorry. Okay, we got off topic. Here we can wrap this up. Grace, thank you so much for your time. I actually really enjoyed this. I appreciate your feedback.
It was fun.
I hope that things go well as you homeschool. I'll teach him art. I can be Christopher's art teacher.
Works for me. Once a month art teacher.
I'll see you bi-weekly.
There you go.
When I get weekends off. So that's all. Thank you so much. And while we're here, actually, I've really enjoyed this course. This is getting a little personal all of a sudden, but yeah, I've had a great time this semester, and I appreciate it. So, okay, bye. Everybody say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.